Good morning to you. A wonderful, sunny Friday morning, March 7th. I am First Alert Meteorologist Cutter Martin. If you are watching on Atlanta News First Plus, on Roku, Fire Stick, First Alert Weather app, Atlanta News First app, on YouTube, so many places you can watch. First of all, I want to thank you for tuning in and for watching today's 11:30 edition of First Alert Weather Plus. We're going to do something a little bit different today, talk about wildfire risk. It's been a pretty busy fire season, late winter going into early spring across much of the southeast. We'll talk about where those fires are burning, why we have seen an uptick in the number of fires across the southeast, including right here in Georgia and even North Georgia and Metro Atlanta. We've had several fires reported over the past week or so, and the risk continues heading into this period of warmer weather, and hopefully we'll get some more frequent storm systems back through North Georgia, the southeast areas that need the rain to help lessen that risk of wildfires. So again, it's kind of a multifaceted equation, something that like drought. It takes a while to get into a drought. It takes a while to get out of a drought. Not all of us in a drought. In fact, many of us technically aren't in North Georgia, but that doesn't mean that there's a zero fire risk just because technically we are not in a drought. So do want to talk about current drought status. And we're looking at the current drought monitor here. This was as of yesterday was the latest rendition. So this is new data, new outlook. And you can see that parts of North Georgia, especially Northwest Georgia, are in officially, drought conditions. They're officially in a drought, should say. That yellow is abnormally dry, so drier than it should be, but not to the extent to where the fine folks there at the Weather Prediction Center and other agencies can classify it as a drought. Soil may be dry, plants may be a little tender, but not officially in a drought. That's basically what abnormally dry, that yellow shading means. Drier than it should be, but not yet officially drought status. And then you see that kind of tan color, that's a moderate drought. And the orange, you see a severe drought condition. And that's going to be the case there across eastern Tennessee, one of the driest spots and one of the areas that has seen many wildfires over the past few weeks. Up by Pigeon Forge, in fact, there was a fire. And, that prompts flashbacks to a few years ago, I guess several years ago at this point, when there were nasty wildfires blowing through Pigeon Forge and, historic parts, beautiful parts of East Tennessee. Not quite to that extent right now. Everything relatively contained, or at least partially contained, in East Tennessee. But drought is definitely contributing to this. And the fact that we are still relatively dry and coming out of the winter season. Many things are dead or dormant. We have low humidity today, temperatures warming into the 60s to near 70, and that breeze will kick back up this afternoon. So we do have an elevated risk of fire weather conditions across North Georgia, East Tennessee, and then possibly into western North Carolina. You see the orange shading, though, kind of stops at the North Carolina line. We have several different National Weather Service forecast offices that issue forecasts, and, they have different qualifications to issue certain types of alerts. This is not a fire weather warning, not a red flag warning, but this is a heads up that conditions are favorable for fires to get out of control and for a wildland fire to possibly occur. So simply put, when you see this sort of alert, whether it's a special weather statement talking about the greater risk of wildfires or a true red flag warning or fire weather warning, it's a day not to burn outside. So what conditions make wildfires more likely to occur? Basically, we're coming out of the winter season, so everything, as mentioned, is either dormant or dead or both. Some stage in between. Think back to grasses. A lot of fields right now, everything's brown, and with low humidity, even though we just got a good soaking of rain, more than an inch of rain at Hartsfield-Jackson, with low humidity, it dries out that tender vegetation. In addition to that, low humidity, strong wind. Those are two factors that can increase the risk of wildfires, and of course some drought or abnormally dry conditions contributing to this. If we had weeks of rain, and even with the dormant grasses and stuff, we wouldn't be at such a high risk of wildfires, unless something we'll be watching out here for, because while we've had some rain, we've also had drier periods of weather. Temperatures are warming back up, so things are drying out more quickly and more readily. So on a day like today, where we have the lower humidity, where we have the drier fuels, and this is, for any time of year. Right now, things are kind of dead or dormant, drying out because we're coming out of winter season, froze, right? But in the summertime, of course, we're nowhere near freezing, but they can simply die because it's too dry outside. So you can have this setup in the wintertime, you can have it in the springtime, you can certainly have it in the summertime. Fall time too, you can have these conditions align to produce elevated fire weather concerns for first responders, emergency managers, and meteorologists at the National Weather Service, and of course meteorologists on the First Alert Weather team. So all that we ask on days where there is a greater than average risk of wildfires because of these select weather conditions, do not burn outdoors. So if you live outside of the city of Atlanta and you typically, if you clear land and then you burn it, not a day to do that. In fact, I've noticed someone last week when we had some rough fire weather conditions burning outdoors. Not a good day to do that then, nor is today a great day to do it, though conditions aren't quite as rough as they were last week. And then, of course, maintain your property, regardless of accidentally starting a fire or a fire occurring based on, burning when you shouldn't. If a wildfire were to break out, worst case scenario, and your land is maintained, the underbrush is cleared, things are trimmed, any dead or dying trees, foliage cleaned up in a safe way, that'll limit the risk of spread onto your property, through your property, and, of course, damage to your home. And we actually do have some video in from wildfires around the region, not just Georgia, also South Carolina. You probably have seen video in coastal South Carolina, even in Horry County, a wildfire burning more than 1,000 acres. This is not in coastal South Carolina, obviously. We're dealing in higher terrain up here. Some of the areas hardest hit by Helene. Going back to last September, these areas now dealing with a risk of wildfire. In fact, so many trees down by Helene that, these are in wild areas, haven't been picked up. That too, down trees, they die, they rot, they dry out, could be contributing to wildfires as well. Basically, there's a lot of fuel, more fuel than normal in some of these mountain communities to work with because there are just so many down trees. There's so much tree debris across mountainous portions of far northeast Georgia, East Tennessee, and western North Carolina. There is some good news, though. We have had some rain kind of help out with the fire concerns and the actual fires themselves. So we did with the line of storms a few days ago. We had some severe winds move through overnight. We actually had fires start up in Pickens County. That was ahead of the rain. Basically, power lines arcing, falling down, sparking, and then causing a spread of fire. Everything was contained pretty quickly, but there was a time there were firefighters up in Pickens County, not where this video is from, but up in Pickens County were fighting a fire while it was raining. And again, unfortunately, we're heading into a time of year where fires like this are pretty common. And all that you can do is practice safety. We talked about land clearing. This time of year, spring cleaning, everyone does it, right? Make sure that you are not burning outdoors when we do have the low humidity, when things are drier, when we do have gusty winds, a day like today. And I want to remind you that you can always get a check of the forecast. If you're out and about, you're away from the house, you're out on your property, not in front of the TV, and you can't get the latest forecast, you can always get an update in the First Alert Weather app. And you can actually, as I pull up the First Alert Weather app myself, you can actually be alerted to any issuance of, a fire weather warning or a red flag warning. Or in today's case, the National Weather Service office, there it is up top, has issued a special weather statement until 7 o'clock this evening. Basically saying relative humidities of 25% or less, that's that very dry air, low humidity, expected for 4 more hours this afternoon into the evening. Winds will be out of the southwest 8 to 12, so breezy with some gusts up to about 20, and with dry fuels, high fire danger conditions can be expected. And it says, of course, suggesting please refer to local burn permitting authorities on whether you may burn outdoors. If you do burn outside, use extreme caution. So they're discouraging burning. Of course, not many areas officially under that burn ban at the moment. There are many areas that are not under a ban. And this is going to be a time where you just have to use caution and use knowledge and safety and common sense when doing the outdoor chores if you are going to burn. So again, kind of summarizing all of that, we've had quite an active wildfire stretch here for the past couple of weeks, especially up in East Tennessee, North Carolina, coastal portions actually of South Carolina as well. So a lot going on, not a good time to burn, and we probably will see more days like today with low humidity heading into this warmer time of year, breezy conditions and dry fuel. So make sure you check in with your county authorities, also Georgia, DNR, to see if burning is possible, if it's allowed where you are, and then second to that, follow up on the latest weather conditions. Complete First Alert forecast coming up with First Alert Meteorologist Ella Dorsey on Atlanta News First at noon.